Good evening and happy Tuesday. It's Let's Talk with Carrie Jemii. Go tell everybody to log on to Carrie Jemii on my Facebook or Carrie Jemii YouTube, because tonight's show is going to be very, very great. I'm excited about what we're talking about, and I think that you will too, because I like to talk about subjects that most people are afraid to tap into and talk about, or it's just not popular. So today I have a guest I feel is kind of very outspoken. Hopefully today he's not going to be shy with me. I met him years ago through mutual friends and our church connections. And I was like, this guy is hilarious. And now he's took that personality it's a huge personality, and he has his own podcast called It Is What It Is. And if you know who I'm talking about, I'm talking about Mr. Cody Kelly. So I cannot wait to bring him on. So with no further ado, Cody, where you at? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm excited to have you. So just for the guests can get a little gist of who you are, just tell us a little bit about who Mr. Kelly is.
So who am I? So host of It Is What It Is podcast every Monday at 7 p.m. YouTube CV Space K. Every now and then I go live. I've lost some of my live, I guess, kind of just flavor. I'm trying to get back to swing of things because it takes a lot to go live. You got to make sure your guest is on cue, the technology is flowing, there aren't any Wi-Fi connection errors, and I just got tired of dealing with it. So but I will get back on it. But yeah, host of It Is What It Is podcast. Anybody that follows me professionally understands what I do. A director of a tech company for North America. But yeah, man, I'm all around cool guy. I don't know what else about me.
You just did a TEDx, right?
What'd you say?
You just did a TEDx, right?
I did do a TEDx. I did a TEDx talk a couple months ago. Yeah, it was really interesting. Shout out to Dr. Allison Platzmeyer. She's amazing. Was actually set on a panel with her discussing diversity and inclusion within the arts back in January. That's how we connected, went through the process, was vetted, ended up getting selected to do a content subject speaking thing. So it was cool. I really enjoyed it. It was a thorough process. Anybody that goes through it, anybody that does a TEDx, shout out to them. First of all, as a preacher, it's really hard to go through that because you can't tune up. You can't rely on the audience there. You can't, your normal piece of cues aren't there. So like when you say something, you can't say, yes or amen. There's no call and response. So it was definitely challenging, but it was amazing. And I'm grateful.
I guess that's what these pastors been dealing with through COVID, because they have no audience. It's just them.
Yeah, but they made it up. They have no audience, but they still have their musician staff, so they're not totally out the woodwork. Yeah,
right. True. So tonight, we're talking about men and his emotions, right? Sure. And what I want to tap into is I always feel like men get the shorty end of the stick. And especially Black men, because it's like you have to be tough. You can't really say how you feel, and they make it seem like if you're dating a Black woman, you got to watch what you say because she gonna jap off or whatever, right? So I'm just like, wow, is it really a safe place for Black men and men, and sometimes men in general, right? So I asked you earlier how you were doing, and you were quick to say, I'm doing well. Yeah. So I want to ask you again, how are you really doing? Because
how am I really doing?
Exactly. Because, on the elevator, going to the grocery store, whatever, people say, how are you? And I think as a society, we are so quick to say, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm great. But from so many times, it's far from the truth, right? It's far from the truth. And for me, to be honest, I tell them the truth. I'll be like, man, I'm having a jacked up day. Like I ain't feeling good. My hair not good. And I have people laugh. They laugh or they give a word of encouragement. And so I'd be glad that I said something, because that moment could have been missed had I not spoke my truth in that moment. So I want to know, how are you really doing? How are you doing?
So I understand. I mean, I think, there's a level of transparency that you should approach and at the same time shouldn't approach, depending on the setting and the environment in which you're in. Like, if you're going to work, you don't want to be like, yeah, I'm about to slap the person in church. Right. You don't want to say things like that. But I do think as far as how am I doing? I mean, obviously this is the year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. It is, you start looking at it and you start looking at things are kind of resuming back to normal. And there's this question of, did we miss the moment that can pop into your mind? Did we only have a moment and not a true movement? I mean, I think there's things that like everybody deals with, and then you have your own internal, I think, conflicts. If you hear siren, I live in Chicago. I can't help it. I live on the South Side.
That's okay.
So, that's part of the landscape. But it is. I'm well. I have been blessed. God has really been really good to me. So I think I'm doing well. I have been blessed with an amazing support system. First, starting with my wife, and then everybody else that I kind of rely on for guidance and critique. So I'm doing well. I would say I'm probably in the best mental health space that I've been at for the last probably 5 years. Right. So I'm in that aspect, I'm doing well, but doing well doesn't mean you're perfect. Right. It's just that I've conquered some things in my life. I've gotten past some things in my life, and I'm a progressing human being. So I'm doing all right.
Good answer. Because I wanted you to elaborate just to set the precedence for the stage for tonight. Because I know, like, even when you're dating or your father, your brother, men are so quick to say, "I'm okay, I'm fine," and you can look at them. You can look them in the face like, they ain't doing good. Sometimes, people can just tell from your, your body language and everything like that. So I just wanted to kind of go into that. And with that said, why do you feel that men are so quick to just say that they're fine when they're really not?
Well, I think, I don't know why I can't get my shirt to be right. Whatever. Right? So, I do not like this dress shirt. I can never get it to stay. But anyway, so I think that, there is stereotypes and unfair expectations of how we should be versus the reality of one person, right? And their kind of position. And traditionally, we're taught to be strong. We're measured by strength. But I don't think that's a good marker for any human being. I don't think it's associated to gender nor identity. I think when we start talking about, being okay, or everything is just in well balanced, we're always kind of looking for this larger than life figure that kind of transcends above all, right? But the reality is, we're all human, and the older I get, I'm okay with not being strong. I'm okay with not being the best. I'm okay with being fragile. I'm okay with being broken, because the real damage is when you think you're not and you start trying to continue life in a broken manner. And like any injury, if you don't take time to heal, it'll only get worse, right? So, for me, it's something about, I always say, like, this is why everybody's needed, because the older you get, you stop lying to yourself. You get to a point, you be like, I really do weigh that. Like you just, like you stop, you don't try to, put makeup on the situation. You just like, it is what it is, and that just comes with a certain level of maturity. So, now I think for myself, I'm not bound by anybody else's expectations. I've let that go. I've let kind of the expectations of people and church and everything else. Now, my expectations is what God has said before me and the things that I've committed to him and to my wife. But everybody else, there's fluidity, right? Like I, like everybody else, I have to take it with a grain of salt, right? So, for me, it's more of a question of, am I comfortable being me? And can I actually help and be a part of the situation? And I'm quick to say no. Like now, I don't do it because I'm mean or rude. A lot of times I just can't, so in the past I felt like, oh man, I'd be letting people down. But now, I don't beat myself up for where I fall short. Right. And when I started to kind of get in the rhythm of that, like, okay, I didn't make this service or whatever. Like when I got to the point where it's like, I don't think God even values that, like when I started to really see the bigger picture and the larger framework of life, all of a sudden those little issues kind of dissipated. So that's kind of just my approach.
Yeah, I think a lot. You said a lot there, but I think what you're saying is that as a person becomes older and wiser, sure, and you start to be authentic to who you really are. And I know a guest has said while you were speaking, you being scared of what others would think. Like I think a lot of times, not just men, but women too, are scared to, be when they're considered the strong woman in their family. Like I have friends that they're considered the pillars. So that and they're breaking inside or they're hurting inside, but because everyone's like, oh, she'll be okay, she's strong. And women get that a lot, especially Black women. They even say that within the hospital system, they don't check on Black moms as much as they check on other moms, or Black kids that are girls that are born. They don't check on them as much. They even did research on that because they feel like, oh, they're stronger. They'll be able to persevere. Like, but it's all a persona. I think that people really don't, pull back the layers to really understand and see what's really going on with a person. They're just easy to just push it, and so based on what you were saying is exactly Melissa said again, men are scared to be viewed as soft, which is true. And what do you
incapable. And I think we want to change the framework of that. What I mean by that, like, I think people are afraid to be viewed as being incapable. Because I don't know, I just don't, I think that not being able to execute speaks toward a larger issue. And I think sometimes men evaluate, and not all men, I don't want to speak for all men, I'm just saying for a very select few, right? Evaluate their value in life or their whatever, their lot in life to their ability to execute. If that's paying bills, if that's paying for dates, if that's having their own place, if that's having insurance, if that's, whatever that is, that's execution. And because if there's a block or there's a gap that they're not allowed or they don't have the resources to, that makes weakness, right? So I think execution is really the fear.
Okay, well, let's dig a little deeper.
Sure.
Growing up in most Black families, if you see kids playing in the yard or in the house, if a little boy falls or he hurt himself, most Black mothers or people around may say, "Get up, stop crying so much. Don't, be a big boy." And do you think that that's the start of where most men start to, hide their emotions for the sake of being like judged to be like hurt? Like, I'm hurt. I hurt myself. Like, I really did hurt my knee, mommy. And, but she's like, stop crying because everybody see you crying. And sure. I mean, so what do you think about that? Do you think that is part of the start of where men start to say, okay, even though I'm hurting, sure, even though I'm uncomfortable, I can't speak up. I can't say anything because, like Melissa was saying, I might be viewed as being soft or what?
I think that's where the conversation begins. I don't think that that's where the pain point is. I really think it's how they saw adults handle situations. It's how they basically mimic it as they get older. I don't think it's an issue of, falling down off the bike, scraping a knee and, crying. Yes. and there I remember, yes, that traditionally, yes, would start there. However, I think what ends up happening is, so you weren't allowed to cry over a scraped knee, but you also saw, your father have zero communication skills when times were in chaos, wouldn't communicate, shut down, become an intellectual corpse, if you will, right? Or you saw toxic behavior. And what you start realizing very fast is no matter how you suppress your feelings, they will come out in one way, shape, or form. So it's more about what avenues do these feelings express themselves through. So, and that's why I said it has to be about excuse, because so you didn't cry, but now you're abusive. You didn't cry, but now you want to, the first little thing, you want to snap on everybody, you want to cuss everybody out. So
exactly,
it's still the same pain, right? That pain is going to express itself, right? So
right, and that's and with that point. Did you watch Married at First Sight?
I have seen episodes. I don't stay current. That's
okay.
Yeah.
So I want to compare two men in two different seasons. So
Sure.
last season there was a guy. His name was Miles, right? He got married to a girl named Karen, but Karen was kind of like judging him and saying, "Oh, he's so soft, he's so emotional," and and he was dealing with depression and different things, and she didn't know how to be sensitive to those things. She like, well, you're a man. Brush it off. You should be, she was looking for this energy. And I'm like, it's okay for this man to be vulnerable. What are you doing? Like everybody else watching, like, is she crazy? But to your point, you have Chris on this new season who emotionally is all over the place. Bursting out with emotional anger and sadness, and it's unpredictable, so it goes to what you're saying. I think that when I look at Miles, I can appreciate a man that was able to articulate to me, hey, I'm not okay, or hey, that hurt me in the moment, instead of you holding on to it 3 weeks later, a month later, we're arguing and you bring it back up. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But you didn't bring it up in the moment, And so you don't become a Chris who seems to, pile on. So what are your thoughts about that?
So I remember that season, the last two seasons I have been very current on. I personally was rooting against Karen. I was rooting for Miles, and I was hoping that Miles was going to leave, because I was like, brother, I couldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't. I was thinking for Cody Kelly though. But I think in that case, I think there's camera shyness, there's camera presence, there's you don't want the world to see you in a certain image. So I think there was a lot of holding back because it was televised. But I also think Miles was unashamed to be him.
Yes.
And I think we have this image of what you should be versus what you actually are, right? And Miles was a teddy bear, really. I mean, he wasn't. He wasn't. And it's okay. And it's okay.
Teddy bear. Now you're not saying
what I mean by teddy bear. I don't mean that in a disrespectful, but I mean like he was a gentle giant. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. He wasn't like, he wasn't. And I don't think you have to be. You don't have to be He-Man, right? Like, and I think it's perfectly fine. I think it was in tune with his feelings. He was in tune with his spirit. He was intellectually just on cue all the time. He was connected emotionally. What he was looking for was death. Now you take Chris isn't looking for death, because obviously the one he was paired with had death. He was looking for the superfluidity that people get trapped into. They get the whatever, right? So so that's what I'm saying. Like, who on paper, if you went by resume, arguably Chris might be a better standout, but in actuality, Miles is the better human being, right? So I mean, that's something that has to be really, I think, understood. And I think this is why, especially when people are dating, you really have to get to know, you know, like know. I know the Bible talks about to know, and it's really more of a sexual reference. But if you really look at that, it's an understanding, right? It's a wisdom of that is embedded in your relationship. And a lot of times, I don't think people they don't really know each other. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, so and I think that speaks to a larger issue. So yeah, shout out to Miles, man. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him and Karen. You know, I wish the best for Paige and their situation. I think it's tragic. I think it's sad. I personally
absolutely.
I was turned off. I was turned off by the way he treated her. And I get it, it's entertainment, so I don't know how much of that was scripted. But at the same token, as a black man, I don't know. That was just disgusting. So,
it was super hard to watch as a black woman. And it was, but also I saw in Paige a lot of what black women do with men. We try to not fix them, but like, I can't look, like she said, that hope. You're like, okay, I hope that things will get better. But at a point, like you look like that's your girl. She's like, is she still like, is something wrong with her? You know, and I'm glad she, like, at the end, decision day, she chose herself and she said those words. Because I think a lot of it, like you say, might have been scripted, but she knew it was important that she stated to the audience, don't get it twisted. I know who I am. I know my worth. But at the same time, I think she did display honesty in the fact that this is why a lot of people stay in relationships longer than they should, for that sense of hope, or with this man. And I hear women say this all the time, like, why do when I date a black man, or why when you date black men, you have to come in repairing something? It's like, it's always a project. That's what people feel like.
It's a deeper, let me touch on that. It's a systemic issue. First of all, I think we have to understand we are the descendants of slaves.
True.
So that in of itself already creates chaos and trauma. So not only the descendants of slaves, we also are the descendants of a people that have been constantly brutalized, constantly taken advantage of, constantly destroyed. I mean, you know, I was looking at just like, you know, conflicts with the United States post-Civil War that ended up tearing up black communities. There is so many you can't count. And we're not talking about 200 years ago. We're talking about the last 50, 70, 100 years. The lady that just testified in front of Congress is 107 years old. She's one of 3 of the last survivors of the Tulsa massacre. So you're talking about communities and everything ripped up that, you know, that we belong to because of the color of our skin. So when there is a pairing in this community, you have conflict marrying conflict on top of just being human, right? So I think that has to be understood. That has to be appreciated. You know, I think we all have to take into consideration, because I think sometimes we forget. You know, we get an iPhone and we get a degree, and then we forget. You know, like 4 generations ago, you weren't owned. You know, like so. With that being said, we all have to take a step back and realize, you know, what it really would take if you're going to, you know, marry somebody that's a black person. You are going to inherit that that struggle, and it's your responsibility to repair the breach. Now, how we come to that conclusion, and I think this is something we have to talk about, really setting real expectations. And I'm not saying lowering your status, because there's plenty of good brothers. I know plenty of good brothers out here, but I mean, you have to be real with yourself. And I won't go into detail with that one.
No. I totally get it, and I think that that's why what the advice I gave one of my friends, I said, you know what, you it's not that we got to go in doing work, but you have to understand that sometimes some people need your help, and they need to be healed by your wisdom and your words. And that's why sometimes God will pair you with a certain person. It's not that you got work to do, but it's for you to help, you know, make them a better person. You know, you got to come in, you know, it's not about doing work. It's about, you know, building them. Does that make sense? And helping them And if you match with the right person, they will do the same thing for you. I want to touch on something you said though, and you were talking about being a he-man and going back to those times of slavery and to today. And
Right.
it's true that you knew in your household your man was the man, right?
Sure.
But then you get to the field and you see him be demasculated by
Right.
slave owners and things of that nature. So you saw that transition, like, why is he not fighting back? But you knew he couldn't fight back because that may be the end of his life. He won't come back home. So I think that you're right. Part of that is still systemic in us. And because I think we all want a man to be, protective and all that. So I think what we're talking about though, it's a time and a place for men emotions to be high and aware, and also a place for them not to feel like, they running and you running, you both running from the situation, but they standing up and they like, hey, I'm gonna handle the situation because that's my role, So I think it's a fine line. And I think that if people, like you said, get to know each other and help each other find a balance between what you said with your first answer. Now you know yourself. You have to find that balance of who am I trying to prove myself to, or who am I for real? You know what I mean? But so yeah. So we kind of talked that subject up a lot, but I want to move a little deeper and a little deeper. So you brought up George Floyd, right? And being a year anniversary for that. And we were all excited about what came about his case and things of that nature. But what is it like to be, because I would consider you educated, I would consider you progressive. What is it like to be a black male in 2021 with the era of the Trump's era and hearing the things he said and the I can't breathe era, and then the George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter? That's a lot. It's a lot. And what does it feel like? Because I'm not gonna lie,
Sure.
and I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit of PDS with
PTSD. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I see the police, I literally get scared. I like, and I'm not a male, but so I can only imagine how heightened it is for a black male. Because for me as a black woman, I am terrified. I get anxiety. Like, oh God, slow down. Who, don't pull me over. And I'm scared. So how does it feel for you? I know you can't speak for all black men, but how does it feel to be a black man in this type of era?
It is at times nerve-wracking. I think, we all suffer from that same level of anxiety when, we encounter the police or the police pull behind us at a red light. I think the worst case scenario always kind of plays in our mind because obviously it's not George Floyd, it's Dante Wright, it's Breonna Taylor, it's
a lot.
Ahmaud Arbery, right? It's a lot. Elijah McClain. I mean, you can list them. Even last, 2 weeks, it was Andrew Brown, right? I mean, like we have so many hashtags, you honestly can't remember them. So it is, you feel the gravity of it. You really do feel the gravity of it. At the same token, you have to not allow it to poison you. What I think is happening with our brothers, you can only see it and digest it so long until you have to make a decision. And that decision is, are you going to work toward peace and toward love and community and cooperation? Or are you going to allow it to fill yourself up with this vitriol? And something that I've been focusing on is I'd rather choose love. I think life is too short to hate you. And it is hard. It is hard, and it's complex, and it's a very aggravating feeling. It's disgusting. You get mad, and then you don't have answers, and then you get mad at institutions that should have answers that don't have answers, and then you get mad even in the faith when you see your other brothers that apparently worship the same Savior you do, but don't stand up for who you are. So it is an aggravating and complex and layered conversation. But I do think that you have to, and I think this is a matter really of faith, you have to appeal toward your better angels. If you allow it to consume you, you know, you'll get so vehement about it that you'll just want to just lash out, right? And I think it's a danger when our brothers and sisters are going through to a point that they just want engagement, even if it's the worst type of engagement. So, you know, for me, you know, I try to really allow the Holy Spirit to guide me. And at the same token, I'm very honest with my feelings, and I'm very willing to engage in uncomfortable conversations. I'm willing to deal with the lack of representation. I'm willing to deal with the economic disparities. I'm willing to deal with the religious bigotry, even in the church. I'm willing to tackle it head on, but I'm doing it through the vehicle and the mechanism of love. I'm not doing it like, no, I want revenge, you know, like, and I think that's where we're starting. You got to be careful when you start seeking justice, that it's really justice and it's not like, no, I want to do the same thing to you, you know? So, it is very heavy. And I feel for my brothers out there. We don't have anywhere on this earth that we can be safe. So
yeah,
it's, you know, you think of Botham Jean, I mean, you think of so many, to the point, you know, if you're not careful, you know, the enemy will start to talk to you and start thinking that you're next or whatever, you know. So you have to really, I think, seek clarity, guidance, and healing. And you really have to depend on the grace and the mercies of the Lord, because it is frustrating. Trust me, it is frustrating. I'm tired of seeing new videos. I'm seeing, you know, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it all, you know. So I get
it's a lot. It's a lot, and I don't know if we are addressing it to the extreme. To the extent that we should. I think that a lot of us are becoming part of the hashtags. Doing the hashtag thing and becoming a part of the movements and have taken our kids out there. But it's going to have an effect. It's and if we can't be in denial of that. If slavery had the effect that it had over 400 years of time, now, you know, we getting close to 5, and it still has its systemic effect. What do you think this time of kids seeing their black men or women's lives not being valued? Like, we have to really take a serious look and make sure that we are putting things in place that can negate that feeling. I think it took a lot of Black History Months and a lot of Black History plays and a lot of other things for you to feel proud of being who you was, and not feeling like, oh, when I go outside, I got to make sure I do this. I get in the car, I got to make sure my hands are like this. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, really it is. And it makes me think twice about, you know, having kids sometimes. I'm like, God, I mean, it's so much I got to tell them and teach them. And it's like, why do I have to feel this way? It's other cultures in this world that God created, many others that don't have to have the same checklist as me. And I just want to know why we have to have this checklist. You know, I don't know. I guess it's a question we'll never, ever really get to the bottom of.
Good.
But I gotta step away for 1 second because my computer is about to die. So give me 1 second if you want to say a quick announcement about yourself and you know, put your social media out there real quick. That'll work. Just give me a second.
Cool. Well, look, hey guys, look, I'm excited. I'm gonna take over as co-host of Carrie's show. Let's Talk Carrie. I'm putting my YouTube at CV Space K. Look, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be on the show, having a real in-depth conversation, and really, I think, just engaging I'm gonna address some of these comments. In truth, your partner must be understanding of your history and struggle. Janelle Muhammad, I think you are absolutely correct, brother. Your partner does have to be understanding of your history and your struggle. And I think a better phrase, your partner has to also understand the real you, and you have to understand the real you. I think there is I call it the Instagram life, right? Like I think we are living in this facade, in this image of what we think life should be. But the reality is, look, if you're married to if you're with whoever, you will have issues. Like life is not linear. You're not going to just have this perfect existence when nothing gets under your skin, but it's all part of it. And what we fail to address, particularly in the faith, is that yes, you can be saved. Yes, you can speak in tongues. You can walk on water and tread on scorpions, and they will still piss you off because it has nothing to do with the anointing. It has nothing to do with the Holy Ghost. It's because you are still married to a human, and humanity is what it is. And something I learned in school is that as powerful as the Holy Spirit is, do not ever forget the power of the human spirit. And when we start understanding the complexities of the human spirit, we'll have better relationships across the board. All right, back into your hands.
No, I appreciate it. I knew you'd do a good job. You're already a host, So yeah, thank you, co-host. I like that. What you said, and that I like that Janelle also made the comment about Black unity in response to what I was saying. And that's true. It could be true. It could be a true solution. I know a lot of us still support a lot of Black businesses. I know I do. But I still think that it's so complex. I mean, it's so much I want to say. But I just want to be also, politically correct too, in how I present things. So, but there's so many layers to us too. It's like you can have people who are progressive and others that are okay with it being the way that it is, and then you got those in between, and then but I don't know if. Even if you have Black unity, it seems like it's always that one. It's just somebody that just takes you all the way over here, and it's like we're trying to go here, but so I don't know. But we talked about feeling safe, right?
Yeah.
And you said it's really nowhere place safe, and it's true because, like you said, you live in Chicago. I lived in Chicago majority of my life, and to be a Black man, it was like, okay, your parents hope you come home because of the gangs or people trying to hurt you, rob you. Then you got your mother's worry because now the police pull you over for no reason because they have some money and you in a nice neighborhood, so they worried about that. So it's like everyone's against the Black male, right? So I was talking about this with somebody, and I don't know if it was you. But I said, do Black men only feel safe when they're in the church?
I think church.
Because let me
be careful how I say this one. Let
me elaborate what I mean.
Okay.
Safe in the church. I don't want people to think just sitting in the congregation. I mean, like
leadership.
Being able to be on the stage and have that sense of power, and people are responding to them the way they feel they should be respected as an individual. Because when they step outside, they back on the totem pole. You know what I mean?
I think church is the only place, and I can't even say that for sure anymore. It's one of the last frontiers that Black men have as far as having some sense of establishment, of resource, of hierarchy, I guess, if for lack of a better word. But validation is what I'm trying to get to. It's really the last frontier. It doesn't matter, if you're talking about, Full Gospel Baptist, Church of God in Christ, you could be talking about the NOI, predominantly male led, right? So it's where we have still a presence, because unfortunately, no place else are we really, there. and leadership. If we are, it's kind of like a dinosaur moment. It's kind of like I was a one-off. Like
yeah.
So it's not frequent and it's not common. So the good bad with that is, the good is that, well, at least these brothers are in some spiritual efficacious environment. The bad is now it's a struggle or it's a war to keep it that way. So so that's the complexity that arises, right? So I think I unfortunately, when you haven't seen what you could be and you aren't willing to push for that desire, that dream, you will always go back to default, right? And for a lot of us who were raised in the church, I think selfishly and unselfishly, I'm not just despising anybody's calling, so please don't think I'm taking shots. But I'm saying that I think growing up to be pastor or bishop was a goal. For me, my grandfather didn't even want me to be a preacher. So I mean, like, I never was pushed in that area. Thank God. I never wanted to be. Like, I tell anybody knows my true goal, I wanted to just be a politician or a famous billionaire, whatever. But I never wanted. It was never like, oh, I'm a pastor one day. It was never that. Right. And because I saw my friends' fathers be CEOs of businesses. I saw my environment, the people I went to school with, and I said, why can't I have that life? So. And church to me, and I felt like it was an unfair comparison because it was like a different world, right? So if to you the church is the best thing you've ever seen, then that's going to be the thing you aspire to. It doesn't mean that necessarily you love God more. It just means that you only see yourself in this vehicle, right? So like for me, I feel like I can be, I can be the new Elon Musk, I can be the new Jeff Bezos and still love Christ, and I never have to pastor. The question I think that the church has to address, and this is a curveball coming out of left field, is, let me say this correct, is, are we structured in a way that we can truly serve and understand the demographics in which we're serving? Do we really have are we really in a position that we can actually minister, or do you just want to preach? I think there's a difference between preaching and serving. I think we got a lot of great performers. I mean, I think we got a lot of great preachers. I said that backwards. We got a lot of great preachers, and I don't doubt their abilities, but I do
pull it off the stage,
strategy, right? I do question their strategy, right?
Yeah. So no, you're hitting hard on something there. That's true. And it could be what we were saying where we started with the conversation of having that place where you feel empowered, right? Because no matter what, I think that all men want a level of power.
All humans. Everybody.
All humans, but women we're not power hungry as much as we are nurturers of certain things. Like men, it's like you have to feel, most of the time, and the church does that. So you have a lot of people, like you said, that may stand in line, like, oh, I got to be next to be, that's what I want to do, because it automatically comes with that prestige. It automatically comes with that stage. So
men have egos, and I admit men have egos. I have an ego. If any pastor says that they don't have an ego, they lying. Everybody has an ego. Some are just bigger than others, but my ego is mostly in the gym. Like, once I exit that, then I leave the ego at home. But I'm saying, like, I think that the pulpit, I think it's becoming more about the enterprise than, to me, the kingdom. And I think there's a disconnect, right? And I'm, it's complex. But to your point, because that's really the last frontier that we have left that goes unscathed, it's the thing that we oversaturate. And I totally agree. Leadership is rooted in the ability to inspire and influence beyond vanity. So,
Yeah. That's true. I mean, and I'm going to end it with this what you were saying, and that is having to see it. You said that you saw it. You saw different aspects of what wealth and success look like. Yeah. And I think that is the lacking factor. Going back to my show last week when I had my brother on there and Derek, and we were talking about finances in our community and how we don't understand the importance of a banker. We don't understand certain things because our neighborhoods and our schools are now built with understanding that financial, wealth management and all that. And then you're going home and your parents are not talking about it, of course, so now you're not learning these things until you get around the right people. And sometimes when we get around the right people, it's all the way further in life. You know what I mean? You finding out, oh, I didn't know about that type of investment plan and all this. I could have been saving up for my kids a long time ago. But I think that it's just time for us to see the possibilities. And I think also, I mean, we're talking about emotions, but we're here now. So now that we're here, I think it's important to say that I think if our men and women can see possibility and know that it's possible, then we probably can start the solutioning of where we're at as a whole and as a people.
Yeah. If you see success in a different form, it will change your mind. If you vacation overseas and your family goes, you're not going to have the same view of, I got to be here in Chicago and Atlanta. Like it's exposure at the end of the day. And a lot of us have to be exposed to different realities. I thank God I was blessed. The way I was raised and the environment, and even in professionally, I've always been in a different crowd. And I always said that they're no better than I am. So I can get everything they have, right? So that's always been my mindset. So I've never,
I've always felt that way too. And just recently, I was doing research, and I was like, where can progressive African Americans go where they can feel free? Because I was feeling the need to.
You was looking for Wakanda.
Yeah.
You was looking for Wakanda. I get it. I googled it.
Coming. That's what I'm saying. They're trying to do it in Senegal, actually. So I'm like, and it's not that I feel like I don't have it here in America. I love America. Don't get me wrong. I'll have two homes. Okay. But I do want to feel that feeling of feeling like I'm not being targeted. I'm not at the end. I'm not like you said, I'm not being seen, but that I can be free and that my kids can be free. I don't have to go worry about them at home, outside in the backyard. It's different. But let's end on a note of what we're talking about today. Where our real subject was, of course, we got pulled another direction. And just like church, you don't stop the Holy Spirit, right? You don't stop it from going where it's gonna go. But his emotions, and we talked about a lot of different things about how to control emotions and how to do it in a healthy way. We talked about the examples of Miles versus Chris and different things of that nature. If you had to leave one nugget for the people today when we're talking about men and handling their emotions, because originally I started this platform because I wanted to be like a life coaching thing for people to come and hear things and nuggets and get help, which I still do part of. But what nugget would you leave today for men to understand how to better manage their emotions when it comes not only to their family, their wives and things of that nature, but just overall and when it comes to being a man?
I would say don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be weak. Every emotion that you have felt as a man, as a human being, I have felt it. When I first got married, I apologize. I'm responding to this work email. When I first got married, when I shared this with my friend, I said, when I asked my wife to marry me, I was an intern making $11 an hour. I was promised a full-time position, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna come into this. I'm gonna make $50,000, and which is not a lot of money. and I'm gonna get married, so had this big thing. Wife said, obviously I do, right? I said yes, and then we're not that I do part. Said yes. So I come back. You're an intern. You're not a full-time employee, so you have to take so many weeks of furlough, right? So I come back from furlough. I'm ready to exit out the internship program, enter into a full position, and my position was taken, and the person I looked up to, literally laughed in my face, right? So here I am 3 months before my wedding date, had to change it. And I'm making zero, ended up getting this job, was a manager trainee at some small loan equity place. That was just I just did not like, and I went through the program, got promoted, I guess, yeah, and made $30,000. Now $30,000 is not a lot of money, not by a long shot, right? And here I am at 30K, about to get married, and I can't afford anything at the wedding. All of our money is trying to get an apartment or whatever, and all the embarrassment that I think every man feels, right? I always joke, I joke now saying, when I first got married, I couldn't afford to get my wife's hair done. That hurt. That hurts now. I say that now. I'm sitting there trying to hold back the tears, So all of that, and now I think about where I am in life. It takes time, and this is something that needs to be said. If you're going to really marry somebody, understand that it is a marathon, not a track meet, and you can't sit there and vilify somebody for what you think that they should have, because I'm a living witness that things do change. And a lot of times we seek this image of somebody, or they got to make this amount of money and this. I'm going to be honest with you. If you got your list would destroy you. You want this perfect guy that, is making this amount of money and has a six-pack. Everybody I know who has that amount of money and has a great body has pictures on Instagram with no shirt on. I have pictures on Instagram with no shirt on, because you can't have it and not have this. Everything is tied into it, and the emotions that come with it has to be understood. And what you really need is somebody that both of you can buy into the vision that you both have for your life and are willing to work for that vision, right? So I've dealt with emotions of embarrassment. I've dealt with emotions of hurt. I've dealt with those hard conversations. I dealt with not wanting to come around my wife's family because I didn't feel like I had anything to contribute. I've dealt with the comparison. So now that I'm in this space and I don't, and God has been more than enough, he's been too good now, right? So now when I said I'm well, and I started off the show and said I'm well, and this is how preachers do it. That's how I come to a close like that, because I really am well, I really am, so I would tell anybody that the nugget that I leave with you, everything that you're feeling is normal. You're supposed to feel that way. The hurt, the embarrassment, the setback, the betrayal, all of these just heavy weighted feelings is a part of the process. Don't run from it, embrace it. And if you can find somebody who is not afraid to cry with you, not afraid to be broken with you, not afraid to go through that same terrible journey. I'm telling you, when you get on the other side, like now, like I'm at a point now, I joke a kid. I said, you could put Meg Thee Stallion in front of me, I wouldn't even go. Now, and I love personally, but I'm just at a point now, you can't break the bond. It's too deep, right? And that's why the scripture says, with all that getting, get an understanding. So my word of advice is embrace your feelings, embrace the ugly truth of it all, right? And don't quit on yourself, don't quit on God. And if you are in a relationship, don't quit on each other. Great.
That was great. That was a great ending. I need to go ahead and send you an offering. That was amazing. That was great. I don't have nothing else to say behind that, because it was great. Great ending. And I'm like, dang, he been mustering up all these things from all these shows that he been watching. Like, when I get on, I'm gonna nail it. And you did. So I am such an honor, Cody, to have you on the show. I know your name is Vernon on Instagram.
Yeah, on Facebook, Vernon Kelly on Facebook. I need to change it back to Cody Kelly. I don't know why. That's my middle name though. But Instagram at CVMK33, just like my little screener thing says, CVMK33. So yeah.
Okay. And every Monday, you say your show is on
7
Monday?
p.m. Central Standard Time, YouTube at CV_K.
Okay. Well, you guys, it was great having you, your audience. I hope this video gets shared. I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff that wasn't dealing with, quote unquote, just his emotions, but things that derive from emotions. I would believe that we talked about those things that help us get to those heightened states of being either emotionally numb or being overly emotional at times. So it's been a pleasure. Everyone knows how to find me. Again, you can follow me on Facebook, IG, YouTube, all at Carrie Jemii. And I am here every Tuesday, the day after Cody. So y'all can watch both of our shows, because I'm on the next day at 6:30 Central Standard Time, 7:30 Eastern Time. But it's been a pleasure. And thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great night. All right. Bye-bye.